Welcome back to Panda Audiobooks. The smoke has finally cleared over the ruins of the sect, and a new legend has been born in the Azure Heaven Domain. In our last episode, Jian Wushuang did the impossible. He challenged the Sect Ancestor and brought a centuries-old empire to its knees. But with the sect destroyed, Wushuang realizes that this domain can no longer offer him the answers or the power he seeks. Today, we step into the unknown. Chapters 121 through 125 follow Wushuang as he begins his journey into the Great Continental Wilderness, a lawless land filled with ancient beasts and hidden experts. He isn't just traveling, he's searching for the next clue to his father's whereabouts. Along the way, he encounters a mysterious young woman being pursued by a powerful group of mercenaries. Little does he know, she holds a secret that will link his past to the true power players of the entire continent. The path is dangerous, and the wilderness is hungry. Chapter 121 starts right now. Chapter 121, The Roar from the Abyss. All of you can go to hell. With a thundering sound, Jian Wushuang suddenly flitted past those 6 gold-masked assassins like a ghost. Before these 6 golden-masked killers, including Darkblader, head of them, could make a response, their throats felt stung and then there disappeared both their sound and breath. While Jian Wushuang was using the soul-devouring secret skill, he almost beat the purple-masked assassin to death. Killing these gold-masked assassins was very easy for him. Do you think you can escape? Lin Yun took a deep breath and looked at his black robe. Then he chased after Jian Wushuang. As for the loss of those gold-masked assassins, it was not important to him. After killing those 6 gold-masked assassins, Jian Wushuang fled into the woods. But Lin Yun appeared above the woods, standing in the air. One was standing in mid-air while the other was fleeing through the woods in a rushed manner, using the trees to hide his presence. Those 2 terrifying auras moved off into the distance. Near Quiet Moon Lake, a lot of warriors in the Gold Core realm watched what was happening. The events they just witnessed had caused huge waves in their hearts. What did they just see? A total of 10 gold-masked assassins came to kill Swordsman, but all of them were killed. Not a single one of them was left alive. Then a purple-masked assassin appeared and fought against Jian Wushuang in person, but the result was that he was defeated and currently sprawled out in a huge pit on the ground. It was still unclear if he was alive or dead. What had caused the land within a few hundred meters to dry out, become brown, and lose its vitality so easily? Then, a second purple-masked assassin appeared, Lin Yun, who was, in fact, the governor of Blizzard City. Like a bomb, these scenes were exploding in the minds of these warriors, leaving them deep in thought. There was no way. So amazing. Each scene was unbelievably amazing. Even now, Lin Yun was still chasing after Swordsman. Hurry up. Let's follow them. Hurry up and follow. Let's watch and see if Swordsman can escape. Ha ha, what an unprecedented battle. It was far more exciting than the battle with Xiao Mang. Hurry up so we can go. A large number of warriors were suddenly storming out, chasing after Jian Wushuang and Lin Yun as if they were the tide. Wushuang, please run faster and escape. Please. Su Ru was praying and clenching her beautiful hands as she rushed to the forefront. In a forest. Swoosh. Terrifying, spear shadows bombarded towards Jian Wushuang like thunderbolts, as he shifted his body so fast that the spears struck the tree he was standing on instead. The overwhelming power of the attack caused the big tree, together with others around it, to splinter. His face was red, and the tendons stood out under his skin, but a strong desire for survival could still be seen in Jian Wushuang's eyes. I still have the chance to survive. There is still a chance. Raising his head, Jian Wushuang fixed his eyes steadfastly on a majestic mountain that was not far away, behind which the abyss was located. It was recognized as the most dangerous area in the endless mountain range. The abyss may be a dead end for others, but for him it was the last chance at survival. Jian Wushuang was crazily roaring in his heart. Hold on, hold on. After he stopped using the soul-devouring secret skill, his aura had declined. But the damage caused by the incredibly overwhelming increase in power from using the skill was beginning to show. He felt like his internal organs were burning along with an unprecedented anguish. The pain was too strong and sharp for an ordinary person to bear, even for those experts of the yin-yang void realm, who were tremendously frightening. Clenching his teeth and hands, Jian Wushuang focused on keeping himself lucid. His fingernails were already digging into his flesh as he used his last bit of strength to stagger towards the abyss. He eventually made it to the top of the majestic mountain, in front of the abyss that lay between the two mountains. Not until he had arrived did he stop moving. Whoosh! But Lin Yun also arrived, staring at Jian Wushuang with his cold eyes. There were also many warriors following after him, all of which had eyes that were fixed on Jian Wushuang. They all wore complicated expressions that seemed to express their size, pity, and mercy above all. Everyone was well aware that Jian Wushuang had been driven into a corner. Behind him was the abyss, which could frighten anyone. In front of his stood Lin Yun, a legendary expert in the yin-yang void realm. He had no chances left. 10 gold master assassins together with 2 purple master assassins formed this group, which was enough to kill an expert of the yin-yang void realm. As a kid in the initial gold core realm, you should be proud to die at the hands of our blood feather tower, Lin Yun said while staring at Jian Wushuang with his cold eyes. All that remains is for you to obediently accept your death. Lin Yun was approaching Jian Wushuang as he spoke. Jian Wushuang felt something surge into his throat, then he coughed up a mouthful of blood. After wiping the blood from his mouth, he looked at Lin Yun, who was closing in on him. His lips were fraught with a strange smile. Do you think you can kill me by yourself? Ha 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 ha. Jian Wushuang burst into mad, almost hysterical, laughter. My life can be taken by heaven, earth, or anyone else. But the people from Blood Feather Tower, only you will never be allowed to kill me. After saying that, Jian Wushuang glanced towards everyone present. Then he stepped back, rushed towards the abyss, and jumped in. In an instant, Jian Wushuang was overwhelmed by the cold wind from the abyss. But he roared at it, full of unyielding will, growling at the heaven and earth. Even if a dragon rises out of the blue sea, I would have no good feelings for Wu Tai. The day I return is the day all you demons die. If I live through this, I definitely turn Blood Feather Tower upside down when I come back. His shout roared out, resonation with the abyss so much that it reverberated through the endless sky, leaving a lasting echo. Even the sky was shaking. It resonated with the land. All of heaven and earth was in shock. A number of warriors gathered near the abyss. They were pale at the moment because they could constantly hear the echoing of Jian Wushuang's words in their mind. The day I return is the day all you demons die. At that moment, everyone stopped breathing and fell into deep silence. Will he really come back? One of the warriors muttered. There was an old burly man standing next to him who shook his head and said, if he dies, then everything will end here. But, if there is a day where he really does return, I am afraid that Blood Feather Tower will come to an end. Chapter 122. Insane Retaliation. Silent, the whole abyss was full of dead silence. Lin Yun stepped forward and slowly walked toward the abyss. Overlooking the deep abyss, his eyes were cold. The abyss, her. Falling into the abyss is a death trap, even for me, let alone for you. You want to survive this and come back. So stupid and naive. Lin Yun snorted. He didn't care about what Jian Wushuang had said at all. Lin Yun, a cold voice suddenly spoke. Lin Yu was filled with doubt. He turned and saw a terrifying aura radiating from the black-robed girl, Su Ru. Her beautiful and breathtaking eyes were frozen at that moment. Tell your master, Su Ru said coldly, with a slightly trembling voice. From today on, Blood Feather Tower will have no peace. Lin Yun's expression darkened. Anyone else who said that would have instantly been killed by Lin Yun, but this was Su Ru. Blood Feather Tower was a powerful group, but that was only in the Qianzong dynasty. There was a vast world outside of the Qianzong dynasty, in which there were many powers that were stronger than Blood Feather Tower. After seeing that special aura that radiated from her, he had a faint speculation about who she was. Therefore, he dared not kill her. Even so, he didn't care too much about what she had just said. Su Ru really had a very strong background. However, the background of Blood Feather Tower was not that simple, was it? I will wait and see, said Lin Yun. Then he turned to leave. After Lin Yun left, the area around the abyss fell into an uproar. The next day, news about 2 summit battles at Quiet Moon Lake quickly blew through the whole Qianzong dynasty like a hurricane. People in Qianzong dynasty were shocked. The Gladiator Arena, the top chamber of commerce in Qianzong dynasty, had compiled a Millennium Chronicle since long ago. It recorded every influential event that happened in the Qianzong dynasty for nearly 1,000 years. It was on that day, one more event was recorded in the Millennium Chronicle. Near Quiet Moon Lake, 2 summit battles happened. It not only recorded the battle for the Black Water Lotus in detail, but also the fight that happened that night. The focus for both battles was one person, Swordsman. In the Millennium Chronicle, this is what was written about Swordsman. Swordsman, a warrior of the initial Gold Core realm and an exceptional genius who grasped 3 sword essences to an extremely high level at the same time. In the battle for the Black Water Lotus, he fought with Xiao Mang, who ranked 22nd on the earthly dragon list. Finally, Xiao Mang was defeated. That night, 10 Gold Master Assassins and 2 Purple Master Assassins launched a lightning-fast assassination attempt. In the end, all 10 Gold Core Assassins died. The right hand of a Purple Master Assassin was broken, straddling the line between life and death. Another Purple Master Assassin, Lin Yun, gave chase to finish killing Swordsman. At that point, Swordsman had no choice but to jump into the abyss. A genius fell. Sadly. Unfortunately. In the Millennium Chronicle of the Gladiator Arena, Jian Wushuang was highly praised as a peerless genius. But unfortunately, he was forced to jump into the abyss. In everyone's opinion, falling into the abyss meant death. A large number of warriors in Qianzong dynasty felt sorry about that. At the same time, what Jian Wushuang said when he jumped into the abyss also spread throughout Qianzong dynasty. The day I return is the day all you demons die. Many people were shocked by his words and felt sorry for him. Some young men who had ambitions were greatly inspired when they heard that. They even hoped that one day Jian Wushuang would return with his sword and kill all the bad men. Over at Dragon Palace. Boom! A terrifying aura was rising, while at the same time a thick stream of killing intent radiated out. Palace Master White, a beauty in white, stood in the air over Dragon Palace. Her eyes were burning with anger. All the temple masters of Dragon Palace, come out! The loud voice echoed, shocking the whole Dragon Palace. Whoosh! 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 Figures swiftly appeared from all the nooks of Dragon Palace. They all used Voidwalk and quickly gathered beside Palace Master White. As soon as the Temple Masters of Dragon Palace arrived and saw Palace Master White emitting such a strong killing intent from her eyes, they couldn't help shivering. "Sister White, what happened?" said Palace Master Black, who also came to her. "I have just heard news that Swordsman died," Palace Master White said coldly. "What? Swordsman? That little guy?" Suddenly, a heated discussion began around her. The Temple Masters did not look good. Swordsman, a peerless genius. All the Temple Masters were shocked by Jian Wushuang's talent and huge potential when he passed through the 11th level of the Dragon Gate not long ago. Palace Master Black even boldly asserted that Jian Wushuang's talent was no less than Crazy Knife's, who was the strongest on the Heavenly Dragon list for decades. It does not need to be said how important this was. Dragon Palace thought highly of such a peerless genius. Even a few days ago, the 2 Palace Masters and other Temple Masters carefully discussed how to cultivate Swordsman in the future when they discussed official business. But now, before they could cultivate him according to their plan, they heard that Swordsman died. How could they be not shocked? How could? The ones who killed Swordsman came from Blood Feather Tower. Palace Master White suddenly raised her head and said coldly. Blood Feather Tower. Is it them? Damn it, they dare to assassinate our disciples. The Temple Masters were unable to restrain their fury. Both Golden Dragon Palace and Blood Feather Tower were powerful forces in Qianzong dynasty. The core of Golden Dragon Palace was Dragon Palace. Usually they did not interfere with each other, and Blood Feather Tower had never deliberately killed a disciple of Dragon Palace before. But this time they did it. Not just a normal disciple of Dragon Palace, they killed the most talented and excellent genius of this year's disciples. A peerless genius who they all had high expectations for. Assassinating disciples of Dragon Palace is a direct provocation towards Dragon Palace. Swordsman, the strongest genius in Dragon Palace this year, with a chance at becoming someone as strong as Crazy Knife, or to even reach a higher level. However, Blood Feather Tower killed him. An exceptional genius is gone. Palace Master White's face was cold, and the killing intent that surged from her was almost sharp enough to be used as a weapon. Palace Master White was the one with the highest expectations for Jian Wushuang. Even before he passed through the 11th level of the Dragon Gate. She even sought Jian Wushuang out in person when she thought he was headed down the wrong path. However, when she discovered that Jian Wushuang was correct, she was so surprised and happy for him. And she was also the saddest when she heard that Jian Wushuang died. "It seems our Dragon Palace has been low-key for too long," said Temple Master Yao of Fire Temple, whose eyes were frightening. "An exceptional genius of Dragon Palace was killed. We will be a joke in Qianzhong Dynasty if we pretend that we don't know. Nothing to say, we have to get revenge. Yes, we have to get revenge and teach them a painful lesson." Soon Palace Master White led many experts of Dragon Palace and took action. Going through the whole Qianzhong Dynasty, a bloody revenge towards Blood Feather Tower took place. Chapter 123, Ancestor's Land. After receiving the message that Jian Wushuang had passed away, both the senior leaders of Dragon Palace and his friends were furious. In a room of the manor where Jian Wushuang lived in, bang! Wang Yuan pounded a table, and the burst of his spiritual power immediately shattered the table. At the same time, waves of air rapidly swept through the surroundings. Third brother. How could he have died? Wang Yuan's fat body was trembling slightly. With rage in his eyes, his seemingly funny face had already become hideous. Dan Ju! Wang Yuan shouted suddenly. Whoosh! A purple figure appeared in the room and stood in front of Wang Yuan respectfully. It was obvious that this man in purple didn't come from Dragon Palace. However, he had been staying in Dragon Palace this whole time, and the experts of Dragon Palace had no idea about it. Young Master. The purple figure, Dan Ju, called. I want to make the top assassin organization of Qianzhong Dynasty, Blood Feather Tower, disappear completely. Are there any problems with that? Wang Yuan looked at Dan Ju coldly. Blood Feather Tower. Dan Ju frowned slightly. Young Master, Qianzhong Dynasty is beyond our control. I don't care about this. I only want to know, can you do it or not? Wang Yuan shouted in a deep voice. Yes. Dan Ju nodded decisively. Then do what I say. Wang Yuan shouted angrily again. Yes. Dan Ju left immediately. Blood Feather Tower. My third brother. Wang Yuan clasped his hands, but in the next moment he became quiet. In the cellar of a Golden Dragon subsidiary palace in Tiannan province. Third brother died? He jumped into the abyss because Blood Feather Tower was chasing him. Wearing a blood-red robe and carrying a blood-red saber, young Xianxia got so angry after receiving the news that his killing intent immediately burst out and soared to the sky. Give me all the information you have on Blood Feather Tower. Young Xianxia shouted. Yes. The person in charge of this Golden Dragon subsidiary palace took the order immediately. Blood Feather Tower. There was a tremendous cold light in his eyes. From now on, there is only one goal for my enhancement. To kill all the assassins in Blood Feather Tower. In a secret chamber, the black-robed girl, Su Ru, looked coldly towards a golden paper that was in her hand. The paper was being burned using spiritual power. After the paper was completely burnt, an obscure figure appeared in front of Su Ru. Master. Su Ru's voice was small and awed. Little Ru, what happened? The obscure figure said gently. Master, one of my elder brothers died. Su Ru said. Oh. Tell me about it. The obscure figure asked. Su Ru did not waste time, briefly telling him what happened. After she finished speaking. So you want to take revenge for him, right? Asked the obscure figure. Yes. Su Ru nodded slightly. You used to be gentle, but now you are surrounded by killing intent. It's apparent that you valued your brother a lot in your heart." The obscure figure smiled and said, "I'll let a group of guards come and listen to you. From now on they will stay with you to protect you." "I appreciate it a lot," Su Ru said gratefully. The obscure figure smiled and then became a cloud of smoke and disappeared. The revenge of Dragon Palace against Bloodfeather Tower began quickly and swiftly, leaving no breathing space. While Bloodfeather Tower was frantically fending off the attacks of Dragon Palace, they discovered that there were two more terrifying forces, besides Dragon Palace, who also launched offensives against them. For a time, the top assassin organization of Qianzhong Dynasty, Bloodfeather Tower, was teetering on the edge. And all of this resulted from one person, Jian Wushuang. The entire Qianzhong Dynasty was shaken by Jian Wushuang. However, at the same time, at the bottom edge of the abyss, a platform, completely paved with bluestone floors, was surrounded by a few clusters of flames. Jian Wushuang was lying on this platform. Though all his internal organs were damaged, and there were some fractures in his bones, he still had a trace of life. His consciousness had long been in a blur, and in this ambiguity, he vaguely heard the voices near him. Initial Gold Core Realm? With such a realm, he dared to enter the Ancestor's land. It was clearly a female's voice. "Big sister, don't you realize that this little guy's appearance is very similar to the one who came here a few years ago?" Another voice sounded, but it was a man's hoarse voice. "You meant Jian Nantian?" When entering here, Jian Nantian had already reached the peak of the exceptional Gold Core realm and possessed an amazing sense of sword essence. He also passed the first test directly, which was much better than this guy. This little guy is not even qualified for the first of the 3 tests of the Ancestor's land. If it was not for the completely awakened sword soul in him, I really want to throw him out now and let him fend for himself." The woman said. "Then what do you want to do now?" the man asked. "Serve him with a heart-recovering pill and then take him to the sword tomb. Shut him in there for 2 years. Alive or dead. It rests on himself." The woman said. "Yes," said the man. Later, Jian Wushuang was aware that someone came to him and picked him up. With this pressure and the colliding of his bones, a sudden surge of pain caused him to fall into a coma completely. It had already been 3 days since Jian Wushuang regained consciousness. In a deserted and vast open space, Jian Wushuang casually lay on the ground. He opened his eyes slowly, but the void he saw was a dark one, without any light. He slowly lifted his fingers, then he pinched hard on his own cheeks. Immediately, there was a burning pain in his cheeks. "The pain is real. It seems that I am not dead yet." Jian Wushuang smiled brightly. He knew it. The abyss was a death trap for others, but not necessarily for him. When he completed his enhancement in the endless mountain range, he sensed a peculiar summons and came to the abyss. At that time, he was curious about the abyss, and he even guessed that the abyss was the Ancestor's land that his aunt had mentioned before. The dialogue between the 2 people that he heard during his confusion had proven it. Underneath the abyss was indeed the Ancestor's land. The Ancestor's land would exclude all outsiders, but it would not exclude him because he had already awakened the sword soul and owned the triple kill sword. "Well, weird, my body." Jian Wushuang moved his body slightly, but he felt strange. He had exerted all his power into operating the soul-devouring secret skill, and he knew its side effect. Not to mention that this time he used it while seriously injured. It would do more harm to him and it should take him 10 to 15 days to recover. But now, the injuries he suffered had almost recovered during his 3 days in a coma. Chapter 124, The Sword Tomb. Is it the effect of that heart-recovering pill? Jian Wushuang thought to himself. He also heard in the vague conversation that the woman said to make him take a heart-recovering pill. After figuring everything out, Jian Wushuang forcefully bore the remaining pain and stood up, examining his surroundings. "What's this?" After seeing the surroundings, Jian Wushuang was stunned. There were some dilapidated stone tablets standing in a boundless wasteland. But, at a glance, numerous thickly dotted sword scars could be seen on the ground. Yes, they were sword scars. They were deliberately left by experts in sword principle. Thickly dotted, thousands of sword scars. Jian Wushuang randomly looked at the sword scar beside him. But with this glance, he was attracted by it immediately. It was incomparably violent and swift, containing a strong sword essence of raging fire, which made Jian Wushuang feel shocked. It's so strong. The man who left this sword scar had a strong and terrifying comprehension in sword essence of raging fire. The owner of this sword scar can definitely pass the 13th level of the Dragon Gate, Jian Wushuang said in a surprise. He also grasped the sword essence of raging fire. So when seeing this sword scar, which contained a vast sword essence of raging fire, he could infer how powerful the expert who left the sword scar was. Jian Wushuang turned to look at another sword scar beside him. Earth, everything contained in one stroke. This sword essence of earth is so awesome. Jian Wushuang was totally stunned again. The sword essence of raging fire and the sword essence of earth contained in two sword scars that were surprisingly strong. But these two sword scars were the most common and inconspicuous ones among the thousands of sword scars in this open space. Jian Wushuang raised his head and subconsciously looked again at the stone tablets standing in front of him. In the wasteland, there were 6 dilapidated stone tablets standing there. Each stone tablet had a large and clear sword scar in the middle. But these 6 sword scars were far more powerful than the others that were on the ground of the wasteland. Jian Wushuang looked at the sword scar on one of the dilapidated stone tablets at once. This. Jian Wushuang was shocked by the stone tablet right in front of him. It was quite common and dilapidated. In the middle of the stone tablet was a huge sword scar that was a full 3 meters long. 2. Jian Wushuang looked at the huge sword scar crosscut in the middle of the stone tablet. He could even imagine that a long time ago, someone who had incredible power crosscut from it randomly with his sword drawn from the sheath. The sword scar was left on the stone, but the stone tablet was intact. How exquisite was the power he mastered. Sword essence of earth. This sword scar actually contains everything I can imagine about the sword essence of earth. Mysteriousness, profoundness, vast and boundlessness, even inclusion. Everything is included in it. Sword essence of gale, tear, puncture, and mistiness. Everything is also in it. Sword essence of raging fire. Sword essence of the water drop. Jian Wushuang was totally shocked. In his view, this sword completely contained all the mysteriousness of 4 sword essences. More importantly, the 4 sword essences were perfectly combined. Adds by Pub Future 4 sword essences, combined perfectly. Jian Wushuang was totally obsessed. It was so amazing. Such swordsmanship was beyond his imagination. In his obsession, he could not help taking out his triple kill sword and practicing his swordsmanship spontaneously. His thoughts and consciousness became immersed in the sword scar more deeply. Stop it! Jian Wushuang shouted suddenly. Meanwhile, it was not until Jian Wushuang bit his lip and started bleeding that he was able to free himself from the obsession. How dangerous! How dangerous! Jian Wushuang bent his waist and placed his hands on his knees, breathing heavily. Cold sweat was running all over his body. I was nearly bewitched. Jian Wushuang raised his head, looking at the stone tablets right in front of him again. However, he dared not meditate on those sword scars thoughtlessly anymore. Too strong. The few sword scars on the stone tablets were too profound and insolent. He was not qualified to meditate on them at all with his present comprehension of sword essence. If he meditated forcibly like that, he would be completely bewitched and become lost in it. Finally, he would lose his sword essence as well as his true intention. It was madness. The sword essence on the stone tablets is too esoteric and terrifying. If I meditate now, it is no different than killing myself. Jian Wushuang shook his head. Then, after a while, he recovered completely from the nearly mad situation. After taking a deep breath, he examined the area again. This is the sword tomb. Jian Wushuang was full of astonishment from the bottom of his heart. So amazing. Thousands of sword scars. Each was left by a supreme expert of true sword principle. The apprehension of the sword essence contained in each sword scar was extremely profound. Each sword scar was profound enough for him to become immersed in studying it for a long time. After being startled, Jian Wushuang felt a burst of ecstasy. This sword essence contains the sword essence of the water drop. This contains both sword essences of raging fire and earth. It perfectly combines these two sword essences. This sword scar is arbitrary and fierce. What kind of sword essence does it contain? It does not feel like that of earth, fire, water, or wind. But doesn't the power seem to be stronger? Jian Wushuang stood beside these sword essences. He could not stop himself from taking out his triple-kill sword and practicing sometimes, losing himself in it. In Jian Wushuang's view, these sword scars in front of him were even more precious than the 3 treasure places in Dragon Palace. It was indeed the most desirable place for warriors of sword principle to cultivate. However, as Jian Wushuang was completely obsessed in meditating on these sword scars, 2 figures were void-walking and hovered above the nearby vast void of the sword tomb. Of these 2 people, one was an absolute beauty with snow-white skin and a cold expression, while the other was a burly man with a simple and honest look. This guy was lucky enough to survive by taking the heart-recovering pill, the absolute beauty coldly said. Lady, although this little guy is at a low realm, his talent is pretty good. He has already completely awakened the sword soul at such young age. The honest and burly man smiled. Well, that's just for the present. If it was. The absolute beauty's voice ceased and she didn't continue speaking. Instead, she turned to the burly man and said, "Have you arranged the sword tomb guards already?" "Yes. Everything is arranged according to your orders," the burly man answered. "Well," said the absolute beauty. She nodded her head and looked down. This guy really takes this sword tomb as a valuable opportunity. But he doesn't realize that opportunity appears along with crisis. 1 month later, when the sword guard appears, he will be tortured. I hope he can survive the sword tomb guards. Chapter 125. The Sword Tomb Guard. In fact, the sword tomb was fraught with jeopardy, but Jian Wushuang had no idea about it. He was immersed in the comprehension of those sword marks which contained a profusion of mysterious sword essences for him to explore. This move combined the sword essences of raging fire and the water drop perfectly. Though water and fire are originally incompatible, why were these 2 sword essences able to be perfectly combined? This move is so fast and sharp. The sword essence of gale. Darkness. Endless darkness. What is the sword essence of this sword mark? While probing the sword marks one by one, Jian Wushuang noticed that the sword essences of earth, gale, raging fire, and water drop were the most common essences for the sword marks. However, there were also sword marks containing essences that were different from those 4 sword essences. Besides earth, gale, raging fire, and water drop, are there other sword essences in the world? Jian Wushuang couldn't help considering this. To observe, meditate, probe, and finally understand it slowly. Under such circumstances, he began to improve his speed of comprehending sword essence at an alarming rate. A month passed in the blink of an eye. In the sword tomb, Jian Wushuang was sitting on the barren land with his legs crossed and there was a sword scar in front of him. This powerful sword scar perfectly combined the sword essences of gale and raging fire. How do I combine 2 different sword essences completely? Jian Wushuang was contemplating. After comprehending different kinds of sword essence, it was not only possible to perfectly transition between them, but to also combine them. When 2 sword essences were combined, a sword stroke could contain both sword essences while complementing each other. The power of the sword would reach an even higher level. Jian Wushuang had comprehended 4 sword essences and definitely hoped to combine them. But at this moment, boom! The whole sword tomb shook violently. Not far away from the void, there was an absolute beauty with a cold face watching this scene. Suddenly, she lifted the corner of her mouth and said, "A month is up." "It's the sword tomb guard," said a sturdy and ingenious man that was standing nearby with a serious complexion. "I don't know if this little guy can defeat the sword tomb guard." Defeat? The absolute beauty giggled. "It is the sword tomb guard that I arranged in person. He will be lucky if he is able to survive their attack. When it comes to defeating Sword Tomb Guard, I don't think he has what it takes. Trust me. Obviously, the Absolute Beauty was very confident in the Sword Tomb Guard. The whole Sword Tomb was shaking violently. What's the matter? Jian Wushuang stood up, with a trace of vigilance, and began examining the area. Crack! One of the scars on the ground of the Sword Tomb abruptly cracked. Then that crack began expanding. After which, a giant figure slowly climbed out of that crack. This was a nearly 2-meter-tall rock giant. The rock giant's body was made of rocks, but he had the same form as a human in regards to the hands, feet, and head. But there was no nose, mouth, or ears on the head, and only empty dark sockets with 2 red lights where the eyes should have been. What is this? Jian Wushuang was shocked. He had never seen a creature entirely made of rock. This rock giant held a giant sword in his hands, which was also made of stone. Although there was no sword edge, the giant sword itself had its own strength. After the rock giant appeared, the 2 red light in the empty eye sockets instantly locked onto Jian Wushuang. The soles of his feet kicked on the ground and the huge body rushed towards Jian Wushuang. Holding the triple kill sword, Jian Wushuang's expression grew gloomy. Look, the Sword Tomb Guard has begun to move. The Absolute Beauty hidden in the void smiled slightly and said, "Pray that the little boy can hold on for at least an hour after the Sword Tomb Guard begins to attack. If he lasts an hour, he will be able to keep his life." Before she could even finish her words, the Absolute Beauty was suddenly stunned. The nearby sturdy and ingenious man was shocked as well, and his expression became odd. With a cold look in his eyes, Jian Wushuang directly and violently swung the triple kill sword when the Sword Tomb Guard dashed toward him in a frenzy. The Sword Tomb Guard's body was pierced by a gloomy sword light at an amazing speed, and then the bulky Sword Tomb Guard was smashed by a formidable power. The bulky body of the Sword Tomb Guard was scattered into a profusion of rock fragments. It only took an instant for the Sword Tomb Guard to be defeated. What? The Absolute Beauty above the void was too shocked to speak. He killed the Sword Tomb Guard in a single move. The sturdy and ingenious man also felt it was unbelievable. It's his strength. The face of Absolute Beauty was cold. His power is very high. He obviously just reached the Gold Core realm. However, his strength is at least comparable to the normal warriors in the exceptional Gold Core realm. My lady, you miscalculated. The sturdy and ingenious man looked at her. How could I know that his power was this strong? The Absolute Beauty shouted with a low voice. I thought he was just an ordinary warrior in the initial Gold Core realm. So I arranged for him to compete with a Sword Tomb Guard at the same level as his. But I am surprised. He is stronger than a normal warrior at the same level, so the Sword Tomb Guard was defeated in one move. The Sword Tomb Guard was not suddenly born. It was actually arranged by this Absolute Beauty. However, the Sword Tomb Guard she arranged was based on the Jian Wushuang's realm. When Jian Wushuang came to the Ancestor's land, he was dying and his aura was at the initial Gold Core realm. Therefore, the Absolute Beauty selected a Sword Tomb Guard at the same level. If Jian Wushuang was really a normal warrior in the initial Gold Core realm, he would not have defeated the Sword Tomb Guard so easily. But what was the result? The truth is that Jian Wushuang is in the initial Gold Core realm, but his strength is comparable to someone in the exceptional Gold Core realm, or maybe even someone stronger. Who could expect that? The Absolute Beauty also did not expect it. Thus, the first Sword Tomb Guard she arranged was quickly defeated by Jian Wushuang's single move. He was lucky. But his luck won't last, said the Absolute Beauty in a muffled voice. Regard him as a warrior of the exceptional Gold Core realm and change the Sword Tomb Guard. This. The sturdy and ingenious man asked, My lady, isn't this little guy really just at the initial Gold Core realm? It's unfair to treat him the same as someone in the exceptional Gold Core realm. Oh, unfair? Though he is in the initial Gold Core realm, his strength is greater than the exceptional Gold Core realm. It's natural to treat him like someone in the exceptional Gold Core realm. You should do what I say without hesitation, the Absolute Beauty said. Okay. The robust man nodded slowly and then rearranged it. And with that mysterious revelation from the girl in white, we conclude chapter 125. Wushuang has saved a life, but in doing so, he has stepped into a conflict far larger than a single sect. This mysterious girl knows things about the heavenly creation skill that even Wushuang hasn't uncovered yet. The wilderness is no longer just a backdrop, it's a battlefield. Who is she? And why are the continent's top assassins hunting her? Join us next time for chapters 126 through 130, as Wushuang enters a hidden city within the wilderness and faces a deadly auction that could grant him his next major breakthrough. Thank you for listening to Panda Audiobooks. If you're excited to see Wushuang navigate this new world, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your fellow cultivators.